Hello guys, welcome back to iFashi. We're so happy to have you guys back. Today's video will be showing you guys how to make a trendy side pleated dress. So I'm starting by drawing my starting line, which is also called the shoulder line, and I took my shoulder measurement there. The shoulder measurement I'll be using is 9, which is 18 divided by 2. So I came down on that shoulder measurement by 0.5 for my shoulder slant, and I drew a new slant line. And then after that, I'll go ahead and take my bust point, which is 9.5, my under bust 13, my half length 17. And at that half length, that's where I take my waist measurement as well. No, from the half length, we'll take 9 inches down to get our hip length, because this is a long 3/4 dress. So now I'll go ahead and label my lines I just made to avoid confusion. So from that waist downwards, that's waist to hip length, I drew another line for the hip. After that, we'll go straight to the full length. I'll be using 46 on this dress because that's where I want it to stop. Sorry guys, I had to tilt my camera for you to see the full length. So now we have our shoulder line, our bust line, and under bust and waist, then hip, and then the full length. After the full length, I made another 1 inch for the folding that I'll use to fold in the down of the dress. So now let's take our shoulder, our armhole measurement. We come down by 8 inches to get our chest line, and then divide that 8 inches by 2, the midpoint of that 8 inches, that's the 4th inch. You go in by 0.5 to get our armhole curve. So here I'm dividing by 2, I marked the 4th inch, I went in by 0.5, and then I'll now use my curve rule to follow that 0.5 straight down to the armhole while I'm curving. So here is the measurement I'll be using. Bust 38, waist 30, hip 44, bust point 8, shoulder is 18. So I'm imputing my measurements divided by 4 on all of these lines. On the shoulder, I divided by 2. So after drawing out the armhole line and imputing all of our measurements, we'll go to the neck measurement. To get your neck measurement, here I'm using 3.3. How did I get 3.3? I divided my bust measurement by 16 and I added 1 to my answer. That's how to get your standard neck measurement. So I impute 3.3 up inwards, 3.3 downwards. If you're doing a curved neck, you use your curve rule to trace from your 3.3 up and down. If you're doing a square neck, as you see me draw here, draw a box 3x3 in and upwards. So now I'm imputing all of my measurements. I'm doing the bust span measurement, which we also call the nipple to nipple measurement. I'm using 8 divided by 2, so I'm imputing 4 on all of my lines because that will be our center front. So right now I'm going to get the type of neckline I'll be using. This is a V sweetheart shaped neckline. So I went up on my armhole line and I came down with my curve rule on my bust line to get that sweetheart neckline. So the yoke we'll be doing on this dress is a Queen Anne neckline that will work with these sweethearts. This is a picture of a Queen Anne neckline. So I came in from my armhole line by 4, depends on how big you want your sleeve to be, and I traced it down to my neckline. So that would be for the yoke part. I'll remove this neck upper part. I just need that sleeve for this style. So now I'm connecting all of my lines. The measurement I took, I connected the allowance and I wrote it allowance, and I connected the main measurement. So now to get our bust and waist snatch that, I came out by half an inch, went in by half an inch on my waistline and connected the dart straight up to my bust line, and I came down by 6.5 just before the hip line to end my dart there. So to get this our side pleat, I went up on my waistline by 1 inch. You can go as high as you want, depends on where you want your pleat to be. And then I came down on that same waistline where my dart is, because that is where the side pleat will stop. The side pleat stops at that center front. So You can go higher, you can start on your waist. If you want it to be low, you also bring it down. So right now we have our center fronts ready. What we need to do now is take our hip measurement. My hip is 44, so I marked 11 and I added my 2 inches allowance. So I use my curve rule to trace out the hip curve down to the full length of the dress. So after imputing our measurements and marking out the whole lines, this is what we have. Let's take a rerun before we go ahead to the next step. So now we have our yoke, then I labeled it front yoke. We'll have our neck marked out, then we have the center front and the dart taken. We have the side fronts, we have the side pleats marked out. So here is the allowance. I used my correcting pen to clean those shades I made on it so you don't misunderstand it, because if with the shades it feels like you're cutting it off. That's why I cleaned it. So now here's what we have. The next step now is to mark out our hip part where we'll be slashing and spreading. So now to get the side pleat of this dress, we're going to do the slash and spread in a very simple way. We are going to measure what we have on this hip part and divide it by 4. So we'll slant this paper into 4 places. So I have 4 inches down here, so I am marking 1 inch on the down part. So I'll also go to this hip line, measure what I have, share it into 4, and connect it with these 4 lines coming from the down part. Then I go to the waistline where I did the slanting, where the pleating would be. I measured what I have there. Please remember, do not measure the allowance. Measure what I have there, divided it by 4, and add the lines up to meet up with these lines coming from down. That's the easiest way to get your slash and spread done accurately. So guys, we are done with this. This is I'll label it the slash and the spread part of this pattern. So I started cutting and realized my video wasn't recording. So this is how to cut. You would cut out your center front from the bust part, from the neck part. Remember, the yoke is detached. There's no yoke in this dress. So remove the center front, remove your front yoke, cut through the neckline to get that bust part, and then here is the slash and spread. This slash and spread will be cut into 2. Remember, it's on the 2 sides, left and right sides of this dress. And then the center front will be cut on fold. And then when you're cutting the second piece of this center front, which will serve as our back, remember to add your 2 inches zipper allowance. So I'm pinning them down here for you to understand how I cut it. I cut the slash and spread part separately, I cut this bust part, and I cut the center front, and here's what we have, guys. So like I said earlier, we're cutting this center piece into 2, one for front, one for back. The back part will have its zip allowance. We'll cut this side pleats into 2, one for left, one for right. So the only thing I'm cutting again for my back piece that is not here already is the back yoke. So I'm starting afresh with a fresh paper. I marked my shoulder line on the fresh paper, came down by 0.5, the same thing I did for the front. And then I measured from my shoulder on the front pattern down to the bust line to get the, shoulder line, which is 8. Remember, we used 8 to get our chest line. So from our shoulder line to our chest line is 8. So I marked it chest line, and upwards we have shoulder line. What we're trying to get here is our neck, so we'll have to draw our armhole line out. Now I did the same thing I did in the front by marking out the midpoint of my 8 inches, which is 4, coming in on that 4th inch by 0.5, and I curved out my armhole curve. So now the back yoke we'll be doing on this dress is the type of neck that has just like the front yoke is open, the back will be open, but it will have buttons at the neck part. So I'm coming down by 2 inches where our buttons and loop will be attached. So from that 2 inches on our neckline, I am using my curve rule to create the back yoke. So here we have this back yoke. This place I wrote the back yoke is the part we'll be needing for this back yoke dress. I had to correct my armhole that I drew. So now this is the part we'll be needing, just this yoke for the back, and it will be cut into 2 places, and that's it. That's all we need, guys. We have the slash and spread, we have the center front, we have the bust parts, we have our front yoke, we have our back yoke. Please remember to cut on fold this center front, and while you're cutting the back, add your 2 inches for your zipper allowance. This is our back yoke and the dress is ready. So I'll be cutting out my fabric and the sewing video will be posted soon. So while I cut on fabric, kindly watch and see how I did it, especially this slash and spread part. So I'm going to cut on the straight lines we made, the 4 lines we made. I'm going to cut. Remember, before you cut, label your hip part so that you will know the part that will not be cut. That hip part will be cut on fold because there is no joining on the hip part of this dress. This slash and spread part will be joined to the center front to give us that side pleat effect. There is no joining on the hip. So I took this hip part, that the curvy part, towards the end of the cloth, the folded part of the cloth, and then you can spread as many inches as you want, depends on how full you want the pleat to be. So I spread with less than 2 inches but over 1.5, and I cut out. Remember to notch the end of this. You see me notching, notch the end part so that you will know where your pleating will stop, because you pleat up to that point and then you sew straight down on your center front. So this is the back part of my center front. Remember, I didn't add up to 2 inches for the zipper because this is a stretchy fabric. If you're using a non-stretchy fabric, you can add 2 inches. Guys, thank you so much for watching. The sewing video will be out soon. Bye.